Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
This is Season 7, Episode 21.
Or episode 163 if you're counting.
So you're going to notice a little bit of a delay here between the two of us. I hope to God that we're coming through okay. This is a super bizarre experiment, as we are not in the same room.
No, we're not.
My arm is completely cut off right now, and Josh can kind of hit me in the face, but
So things are normal for me.
Things are very, very normal. I hope you guys will tell me if stuff doesn't look or sound right, because we're doing local audio recording in our own separate homes, so that's good. I am within the Philadelphia area right now, and this was semi-unexpected, but very, very cool. That last weekend, Josh and I were at MagFest, and it turned out that my friend Roger, whose home I am in right now, and he is very kindly allowing me to use his equipment, turned out he helped me to become a guest this upcoming weekend at Anamore in Baltimore, Maryland. So if any of you are going to be in that region starting tomorrow, I've got a couple of events going on personally. Got the cartoon intro sing-along as one of them, and we're gonna kind of talk some Power Rangers in another panel, and maybe move it on into where did Power Rangers come from. So this is interesting. I hope you're okay, Josh. I'm pretending I can see you over my shoulder.
I'm okay as far as I am sitting at home with the Siren doing what she normally does, and she's asleep right now, but she will need petting very, very soon. I will also apologize ahead of time if I sound a little hoarse tonight. Unfortunately, as Kaylin just said, we did just get back from MagFest, so I have a bit of the con plague. We can't all escape it. I did my best to hold it off. It at least didn't bug me on the flight back, but as soon as I got back here into San Antonio, I was like, yeah. So there's that.
So my hope is that we're coming through okay. I think Josh might be a little bit louder than me. I'm actually going to take his audio down just a little bit, and hopefully that our audio kind of matches one another. You guys tell me whether or not it's okay. But what else is going on, Josh, over my right shoulder, totally there?
Let's see. As people can see on your channel, we did get the chance before we left for our MagFest. We got to see the Ultraman double feature that was in theaters for one night only here in town. That was the double feature for Ultraman Ginga S and Ultraman X's individual movies, which went pretty well as far as a dub goes. It wasn't terrible. We both liked it. Recorded that video. I don't know if I told you this earlier today, but I know you got retweeted by one of the actors from the movie.
Yeah.
I got my initial Instagram post got liked by the same actor.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, that was just today. So yeah, well, way to go.
That is pretty.
So
cool.
if you guys have a chance to go watch it, go check online. I know Tokusatsu Network had a list of different theaters that were showing it. Please get out there, support Stateside Toku. We need to show Subaraya that they're doing a good job showing this to us here in the States legally, and we need to show we will pay for it.
Yes, exactly. We did, in fact, pay for it. I would pay for it again if they released it on either Blu-ray or DVD, and
absolutely.
It would be cool if they had both subs and dubs. I have to imagine if they released both subs, if they released it on home video, they would release both subs and dubs.
I would hope so, yeah.
I would think that they would. So I didn't mention it right at the top of the show because all of this is so different, but thank you, as always, to the Patreon contributors at patreon.com/MarsGirl who make this show and everything else that I do possible. I don't think it would have been possible that I'd be out here at all if not for the Patreon contributors. So I'm able to do so much, and I'm looking forward to getting so much more done. I've got 2 reviews coming down the pipeline. That's very good. And I don't know, it's just been out in Philadelphia this whole week. I wanted to get that in there before we continued the show, and earlier today hit up some classic Rocky locations, so that was totally interesting and fun. I wish you were here for that, Josh. You would have
I would
really
have done
liked
it. I would have run up those steps.
We did it. We ran up the steps, and I
But
did.
did you have Gonna Fly Now playing when you did that?
I wish I had, but I let it play in my head as.
Okay, all right. I'll let that slide.
I'm sure
Fine.
you would not believe the number of joggers that are going up and down those steps, and I was definitely not the only person who got to the top and went like this.
Well, yeah, it's a rite of passage. If you're there, you've got to do it.
That's
imagine.
exactly what I said when I got there. Yeah, it was like this rite of passage or a pilgrimage for some people, and everybody's wearing headphones, and if not, at least one of those people there was not listening to Gonna Fly Now at that very moment, then I would have been very disappointed with each and every one of them there.
No, you'll probably see that 9 out of 10 of them are listening to the Rocky theme, and the 10th person is listening to Beat Energy Gap for some weird reason.
Beat Energy Gap, okay. So right now I'm just super shocked and surprised that this is working as well as it is right now, and I'm waiting for this whole thing to explode.
Hey, don't knock it. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, so why don't you go ahead and tell me, Josh, to my right-hand side, what we are talking about today.
Well, I do want to start off by saying there's one thing we're not talking about because of friggin' scheduling again, and that would be the Switch announcement.
Which is coming, yeah, right as our show ends, and by all means, I totally understand if you guys, during our Q&A later, are going to be watching that instead.
Yeah, so we totally get it.
We will stick with you if you want to stick it out with us, but yeah, we need to get caught up on that Switch information, for real.
So we'll definitely be talking about that next week. But for tonight's show, so our first story for the evening...
Pardon the noises from the computer, sorry.
So our first story for the evening has to do with the current state of marketing for Power Rangers as a whole. Right now they've got a lot of information coming out about Ninja Steel, which of course is the new iteration that's going to be starting up. And we're about 3 months out from the premiere of this new reboot movie. But for some reason, the only thing that Power Rangers on social media can seem to talk about is cats. Cats on the internet. So we'll talk to you guys about how that's going over and if that's indicative of any problems that they might be having.
Right. So secondly, what was our second story? Was that going to be Final Fantasy?
Yes.
It was, yes. So Final Fantasy...
that was yours.
Yes, that one's mine. Final Fantasy VII, for example, it's their 20th anniversary of the game coming up January 31st. So tons of really cool interviews have been coming out giving insight on the state of the creation of Final Fantasy VII and its entire compilation. And it's also an interesting point in time to talk about where the franchise as a whole has gone now and what the state or non-existent state of upcoming titles is about to be.
Yes, and then our last story for the evening actually manages to deal with the two of us, what are more or less what we do on a day-to-day basis, right down the middle. So there's a man out in Georgia who has been fined quite severely for operating a business out of his home, and by business we mean making YouTube videos. So we're going to go ahead and talk about how that's possible and what that actually means for other people who are starting to do this more and more often as a full-time job.
All right, yes. So we will be talking about those stories very shortly, but as always, Josh has follow-ups coming to us.
Follow-ups. All right, so this is going to be a little different because I'm reading them off my phone this time, but you know what, we can still do this. All right, so first and foremost, we always start off with the DC news, and even if we're in two different states, we're going to bring the familiar back. Full-blown Justice League, get it up there, full-blown Justice League. So we've got some actually really important news to cover, but first and foremost, fan service picture. So let's get that up here. This was released earlier in the week. This is a picture of 5 out of 6 members of the Justice League. If you can see it here over Kalen's shoulder, there's Batman, Wonder Woman, a very CGI Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman getting off this vehicle that is supposedly built by Batman to help transport the team around. Very nice look at the picture, so that's great.
I mean, they look more colorful than I expected.
Yes, I can at least say that about Wonder Woman. Her costume is looking more like the color scheme, the brightness at least, of the color scheme that we see in her solo movie, which will be coming out later this year. Aside from that, we've got 2 other big pieces of news to talk about there for the DC extended universe. The first being that Ben Affleck has put aside these pesky rumors that have been coming up that he's not going to be directing the solo film entitled The Batman. He said he absolutely will do it, but he's holding fast to this idea that we're not going to do it, or at least I won't, unless the script is right where it needs to be. Otherwise, we're not going to rush this. Please keep to that, Ben. I am praying you keep to that. Otherwise, we're going to get the same crap over and over again.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to them actually potentially having a watchable movie. I hope that is the case.
Yes, and then the other bit of news that we've got to report on is information about the Green Lantern Corps movie. The biggest part about that being that they have confirmed that for the first time in live action, we will see the character of Jon Stewart portrayed on screen.
That's pretty awesome. That is really awesome.
Of course, Jon Stewart rose to big in the public eye fame for his inclusion there in the Justice League cartoon, and now we'll get to see him
on Cartoon Network. Yeah,
on Cartoon Network. Yes. So we'll get to see some of that later on once we get to a Green Lantern Corps movie. No word yet on casting, although there's still those rumors about certain actors here or there, but nothing confirmed just yet. So let's go ahead and move on to some television news. So over on The Flash, they've confirmed that Robbie Amell, who's Stephen Amell's brother, who played Ronnie Raymond on the show in the first season, who met a very specific end, apparently, at the end of Season 1, will be coming back in Season 3.
Okay.
Now, of course, in Season 2, we did see him come back, albeit as his Earth 2 doppelganger. I forget this. I think it's Deathstorm? Yeah, Deathstorm. But this seems to be the original Ronnie Raymond coming back, so I'm not sure how they're going to write that. They're keeping a tight lid on what exactly that's going to entail story-wise. But at least we get to see another character come back.
Okay, I'll take your word for that one. I personally have not been watching.
Yeah, it's good. It's honestly good.
I trust you.
I trust The Flash to do a better job than the other shows. Not to say I don't like the other shows. It's just I like The Flash the best.
I get you. I hear from many other people as well.
Okay, and then the last bit of news for at least the DC portion is that we've got a confirmation date for March 16th. For the sequel to Injustice, entitled Injustice 2, which will be coming out on multiple platforms.
Injustice 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yes, Injustice 2 Electric Boogaloo. If you're not calling it that, what's wrong with you? Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our Marvel news here. The biggest piece here being this photo released today from Entertainment Weekly of the Defenders. So let's get that up there.
Yes.
This is our first look of the entire cast together in costume, albeit not necessarily in fighting costume for Matt Murdock. But you see them all clearly there, Luke Cage, Daredevil, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones, respectively. There were also some other photos released, one of Sigourney Weaver, but we still don't know who she's playing yet, so, mystery's still around that, but I trust them. They're going to do a good job with this. I just can't wait to see this series. So the more information we get, the better. You can see Finn Jones there has the Iron Fist tattoo there in between the open shirt, so nice touch there.
It's pretty fascinating that this even gets the opportunity to exist, honestly.
Yeah, this shows how far really comic books have come, because you would have never imagined 10 years ago that we would get to see something like this at all. So it's amazing to me that we're getting to see this in our time, and I'm thrilled for it. I can't wait to see the whole series when it comes out on Netflix. So let's go ahead and move on to some other news here. So we've got some casting rumors right now out of Marvel's next major movie, The Infinity War. So actor Peter Dinklage, who a lot of people know from, of course, Game of Thrones, is being courted for a major role. No word yet on who he's playing, but I've got my guess.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it's law that's going to be it. Of course, it's just speculation. I'm just saying, if you cast Peter Dinklage as MODOK, that would be amazing.
As MODOK, you think he sounds like a MODOK?
He can do whatever he wants. He's an amazing actor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I really prefer his. I'm very interested in his acting professionalism. I don't know. I don't really hear it. Like we heard him in the earlier versions of Destiny. But he didn't really sound... No, was it Destiny? Yes.
Yeah, it was Destiny.
It was Destiny. But I don't know. I don't know if he sounds... I love MODOK, though. I so love MODOK, but I don't know if I'm
just saying, if you shave him up, if you shave him up and just kind of stretch his face a little bit, you'll see it.
I don't know.
Just
I don't know
saying.
if I do. But that's. I think I would eventually warm up to it. I just don't know if I see it right now.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to some other news here, we've got some major news out of the Han Solo movie there from Star Wars. Actor Woody Harrelson, who of course we've seen in a bunch of things over the years, The Hunger Games, Cheers, things like that, has been cast in the movie as Han Solo's mentor, who also happens to be a thief.
So
Now,
I guess this is essentially a new character that they're creating for the sake of this movie. I assume
as
we
far as
have
we're
not
aware.
seen this character before in subsequent films.
Well, we've never heard, as far as we know, we've never heard of this character. This does seem to be an original character created for the film. He says that they're still working out the kinks of what his costume's going to look like, if he's going to have any sort of prosthesis or something on his face. They're working that out right now since they're still in the planning stages. But since he's, a very, very capable actor, I absolutely trust his casting there in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got that to look forward to over there. Let's see. And now we've got some other sci-fi news to bring you. We are staying on top of the pulse of Pacific Rim's sequel, and we've got this picture to show you, which I was waiting for, and now we've got it.
Are you happy now?
Yes,
Are you happy
there's
now?
John Boyega in his freaking Jaeger outfit.
All right.
He's gonna pilot a Jaeger.
We already
Yes.
knew he was gonna pilot a
Yeah,
Jaeger.
but he's in the suit. He's in the suit. Do
You
you not see him?
This is what you
He's in the
sound like.
suit. He's in the suit.
He's in the suit.
I'm overjoyed right now. He's in the suit. Now, if we could see what the suit looks like, what the actual Jaeger looks like, and what kaiju he's fighting, that'd be even more awesome. But this will hold me for right now.
Huh. It really looks. I know it is a Jaeger suit, and we know what a Jaeger suit looks like. But man, this looks so hardcore, like Mass Effect armor. Also,
I was thinking that too. He's either straight out of Mass Effect 3 or a Guyver with no head.
That's true too. Yeah, he needs a helmet.
That's mostly based
He needs
off
a
the
helmet.
coloring there. But yes, we've got that to look forward to from this movie. Okay, so let's move over to some game news here. So we've got an update on. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, at least the franchise. But Final Fantasy 15, of course, the most recent iteration of the franchise that has come out, is now the quickest selling copy of any of the numeric series ever.
That's really impressive. So I will want to elaborate upon that a little bit later, as really society has kind of changed, because Final Fantasy VII made really impressive sales too. However, it was a different time when you consider
Oh, of course.
when you consider what pre-sale culture is like now. But definitely I want to elaborate upon that idea a little bit later. All the same, it's impressive numbers no matter what. I'm sure that looks amazing to Square Enix and probably tells them, hey, keep doing what you did with 15. And we'll talk about later whether that's a good or a bad idea.
That's arguable, at the least. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and bring up an interesting thing here. Next month in theaters, just before the movie comes out, the live-action movie Ghost in the Shell, the original movie by Mamoru Oshii, will return to theaters the first week of February. They're around the 8th, so check your local theaters, see if you can catch it. If you've never seen it in theaters, it's nice.
We don't
so you'll have that
seem
option.
to. There don't seem to be any listings so far right now, right?
Not just yet, but those should be coming up very shortly.
Okay. I mean, we just recently, between ourselves, rewatched that first movie.
Well, right, because I own a copy.
Yeah, so we rewatched it in order to begin to get ourselves back up to speed and to be prepared for the new film that is coming out in just a couple more months. And so it obviously is the perfect time to be going to theaters and seeing it again on the big screen. It's very impressive to see this animation on a much bigger screen.
Yes. All right, so we've got that there. Let's go ahead and move up. We've got a lot of Tokusatsu news tonight, which makes me happy that we're covering it. So we have a confirmation from Shout Factory that the next DVD set that they're going to be releasing is Tokuso Sentai Car Ranger, and we have our first look at the cover for the series there. This, of course, is where we got the footage for the American adaptation for Power Rangers Turbo. That will be released in a few months for the low manufacturer suggested retail price of $59.99.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you can go ahead and Make your pocketbook weep because you're going to want to add that to your legal Super Sentai collection. Again, can't say it enough. Support stateside toku.
So I'm glad that they ended up confirming this themselves through Shout Factory, because the original way we found out that they were doing this was because somebody saw the listing go up on Amazon, and Shout
Right.
Factory had not initially confirmed it personally themselves. So, but now we finally got this picture, so obviously it is real. It's very, very real.
Yes. And then the next thing we have is from Kamen Rider Exade. Of course, the Genmu spin-off YouTube movies. The first one was just loaded today. But now, in accordance with those, they're showing off these new gashots that they're using for the series, which we have a picture of here. At least the first 10 from Kuga through Decade, and of course all the other ones from there on, Double through Drive and Ghost, will be available through Bandai for about 1,500 yen, so about $15 our money. These are going to be sold later on within the coming month or two. If you want to go ahead and add those to your collection, because you see, every year, depending on what the collectible thing is, they have to release these. You know, older versions that have the older writer's jingle in them or something.
Yeah,
that relates
yeah,
back
I
to
was
that.
about to say that. They did that with the icons, they did that with Astro
Gaia
Switches and
Memories,
Gaia
yeah.
Memories, and all that good extra buy every single
Yeah.
little thing garbage. So this is just another one.
Yes, and the last bit of news we'll cover here is for this new Cho movie Tyson, which we're showing from the poster that we've seen so far, that will cross over between Q Ranger, the next upcoming Super Sentai, and Kamen Rider Exade. Currently, they are apparently filming right now, and it seems that the characters from Exade will meet the characters from Kamen Rider Amazons.
Mhm.
So we're seeing that coming up right now. We're seeing those suits on set, filming across from one another, so I don't know how those fit together, if those are in the same universe, or if it's even going to matter, because really the movie Tysons don't amount to much.
No, they don't. They're not even like really canon, right?
No, they're not. Nothing about them seems to really last at all, so, you know, it's whatever at this point.
Yeah, it's whatever. It always is. You know what? It's always whatever. Just enjoy it because it's visuals. Don't even think about it like the story matters. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. But that's all our follow-ups for the evening. Let's go ahead and get into our first story.
Yeah, first story. So we were talking just now about Tokusatsu, about Super Sentai. I think it makes sense to move into Power Ranger stuff. This picture may or may not make a whole heck of a lot of sense without explanation at first, but here's some cats. Yay, this is what we're doing now. For some reason, cats.
I don't know if you can see any better. There's a cat dressed up as Power Ranger.
There's three
Or as
of
they're
them there.
calling them.
There's two others. They're calling them the Meow
Rangers.
The Meow
Oh my
Rangers.
god, so stupid.
So this is a thing that really exists, and
But this is a thing, yeah.
then the question is, why are we doing this? And they're pushing it really hard, mind you. Saban and
Yeah.
Power Rangers themselves are pushing it really hard, and not so much new footage or photos of their movie that comes out in like 2 months, or is it in May? Is it March or May? It's March, right?
March. It's March.
Oh my God! What is wrong?
So let's go ahead and put this in context here. So first and foremost, this video, the Meow Rangers, has been retweeted, reshared several times through their official channels there on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, so people can go ahead and look at these cute Power Ranger kitties. Oh, they're so nice. But I think part of that, like, okay, that's fine and all, but in the context of the time we're in, we are 3 months out from the premiere of this new movie, and we have yet to get a second legit trailer.
Mm-hmm.
We have yet to see any fight footage. We have yet to see any even action stills of the Rangers fighting anybody. We found out about the putties. We found out about Goldar through the toys, but we haven't seen anything. And now, granted, most recently there was this, I believe it was a Comcast VR event, where some visuals, not even, things straight from the movie, some visuals from inside what we're assuming is the command center have come up.
Yeah, so we've seen Zordon and Alpha 5.
Yes, and the thing about it is, from what we saw of Zordon, now I was afraid of this to a certain extent that he was going to look stupid, but really it looks like, from what we saw there, that they just ran out of give a for Bryan Cranston because he just looks like if I took my phone and I filmed Bryan Cranston's face and then I put a blue tint over it, like I didn't add any effects to it, it was just that. That's what Zordon looks like.
So it's but at the same time, he is probably the part that I'm the least upset about, because what was Zordon before if not a really grainy blue tinted man in a tube?
Well, yeah, but it's like in context with everything else, for as much as they tried so hard to radicalize the designs, it's like radical design, radical design, radical design, Skype call. Like, that's what it looks like.
Well, but no, I can't follow you there. He's the one thing I really can't complain about. He's literally the only thing I can't complain about.
Well, see, the thing about it is, I think this speaks to the bigger picture, which is why we're doing this piece here, is that when you're 3 months out, like, you remember a year ago, we were complaining when Warner Brothers was missing key opportunities to talk about or show things from Batman v Superman, I'm sorry, not quite Justice League, and we were talking about how they were showing too much of one thing and not enough of another thing, and part of that was indicative of the fact that they were having these early tests showing that people were very polarized. They either really loved it or they absolutely hated it, and that just proved itself. That just proved itself once the movie came out. So when you take that in context with what we're looking at here with Saban, Lionsgate, and Power Rangers, it looks eerily similar. That they might be aware they could potentially have a bomb on their hands, and that's why we're not seeing very much. Otherwise, they'd just be adding fuel to the fire to what people will eventually find out.
You have to imagine that by now, surely this movie has seen test audiences. By now, they had to have.
Well, because
what is the how does that typically go? By now, wouldn't that be usually a film would see its test audiences within 2 months of release?
If not a test audience, they would at least have had dailies and rough cuts that we could have looked at. And I'll even say that much for full-blown Justice League. At least they've shown us the behind-the-scenes shots that show, hey, they're going to be fighting. There is Superman in this movie, so that will, calm down some people's fears. But for Power Rangers, we haven't gotten squat. We haven't gotten squat or Babu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see what I did there.
I understand the joke. Squat or Babu or Finster.
No, because none of them seem to be in the movie
or
either.
Scorpina, right?
Or Scorpina, yeah. Scorpina. We don't have any of these side characters.
Or Bulk and Skull.
Maybe they're the Mean Girl version.
Yeah, that's debatable. That's
debatable. But even then, they haven't even confirmed that with us. And even then, it might just be a visual hint with one of the other girls there. That are supposedly going to be picking on Kimberly. Mm-hmm. So when it comes down to it, really, the longer it takes for them to show anything and the less time they have until the movie comes out and we still have the same amount of things. Like, they're pushing toys already. Like, Toys R Us, Target, the shelves are full now. Walmart, I was just there the other day. They've got a full set of every Power Ranger figure for the movie out already, the morphers and all these things. The least, and we were talking about this last week at MagFest, the least they could have done is already put out just a photo of the Rangers in the classic pose using the morpher.
Yeah, that would have comforted me at least a little bit, I think. I mean, further than that, though, at least they seem to be pushing the next season of Power Rangers on television a little bit,
yes.
Right? And at least that's the right direction for the standard TV show.
Right, so at least with Ninja Steel, you see them showing clips. Hey, this is the new season. These are the things we've changed. These are the new characters. These are the new powers. They've got that down. They fixed that. They know how to work that down to a science. Mm-hmm. That's fine, and they're good there. And maybe to a certain extent, I believe they should have stayed there. Mm-hmm. Because if going into the movie meant you had to alienate a good chunk of your audience, now admittedly, you and I had this conversation too, that there's still this weirdly vocal group of people that are like, just because it's different is why I'm going to go see it. That's fine, but
yeah, they exist.
But understand, they're probably the target audience, the people that are just trying to be ornery or like say the Michael Bay Transformers movies. Like, it's a completely different demographic that they're trying to sell to. Mm-hmm. And when you see that's what it is, you can't try and lie to me and tell me, oh, no, this is aimed at fans of the original series. Then why'd you change so much? Why does it look so alien, so to speak?
Yeah, they're actually quite terrified of the source material that they were given, and it tells me that they don't trust that Power Rangers is actually viable enough an entity all on its own, just for existing, despite the fact that it was its own phenomenon. If they really thought that it was going to do well enough on its own, they wouldn't have changed so much, and they would have embraced just how insano world bizarre Power Rangers actually is. I thought that idea might have been magnificent if they had gone down that road. I'm super concerned that they realize, oh, we have tried too hard to grimdark this and to fight against Marvel because everybody wants to make a superhero movie now.
Right.
And there are people that want to. I have always heard, even before Power/Rangers, I've always heard of the people that want Power Rangers to grow up with them and become grimdark. Those fans have always existed, and there's nothing wrong with that, except I don't want that. That's not a thing that I want. But I think they're realizing that maybe, despite the fact that they are a vocal audience, they actually aren't. There aren't as many of them as they expected there to be.
Right. And the thing about it, too, is, like, if you embrace what Power Rangers are, then you get what the aesthetic is that they were going for the time, is the fact that they were blending these two things, the stock Japanese footage with these American actors. When they would promote the show, anytime you see any of the DVDs that you see out at like Walmart or Target of the older seasons, they're there posing in their traditional poses. Think of every official photo that we've gotten for these Rangers, they're just standing there.
Yeah, they're just pretty boys selling clothes at the Gap.
No, like even what we have in suits, even the standees that they have at the theaters right now, they're just standing there. There's nothing dynamic about them.
Yeah.
Why would I want to go see a Power Rangers movie where you're not even showing me that they're going to fight anybody? The only thing we know for a fact, and I've said this before, the only fight footage that we've seen anything of was the spy set footage of Jason supposedly fighting putties in suit. That's all we've got. And we had to hunt for that.
Right.
Those are spy shots. Otherwise, the only other thing we've got is Rita picking on Trini in her bedroom, and that's it.
That's true.
Where's the rest of the movie?
That's not a fight. That's not a fight.
No, that's not a fight. So where's the rest of the movie? I mean, granted, that's not me saying we'll leak the whole movie right now. I'm like, no, show me why I should go see this movie.
Show me why I think that these are Power Rangers.
Exactly, yes. So I think if we see more of this over the next month or so, if we hit February... I think it's 18th. Once we hit February 18th and we still haven't seen anything, I'm going to get really worried.
I'm super concerned right now. We are about to hit only 2 months out because
we're
only a week away from being 2 months out. So that is super bizarre.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it's very
terrifying.
Scary. Until then, thank God we've got Meower Rangers, and I guess
shut your dirty mouth.
I guess they're gonna produce more of those episodes because that's what everybody was asking for.
No, they weren't.
I wasn't. I don't
get it out of here.
Yeah, I'm just gone.
I'm done with this kid.
Go away. So I'm gonna be bringing up just random Final Fantasy 15 photos. Admittedly, nothing very special about this. So just like you were saying earlier, Josh, Final Fantasy 15 has had really quite successful sales.
Yes.
Final Fantasy 15 is now the fastest selling Final Fantasy game within the Final Fantasy franchise. That's just one part of all kinds of Final Fantasy stories that have been coming out this week, and other stuff similar to Final Fantasy that has come out of Square Enix. So let's talk first for a second, about Final Fantasy 15, and so why is it that Final Fantasy 15 is the fastest selling game within the Final Fantasy franchise? So it's really debatable. However, I feel like gamer culture has changed a lot within the last 20 years. And I say the last 20 years because let's identify Final Fantasy VII. Because Final Fantasy VII came out almost exactly 20 years ago. At the end of the month, it'll have been 20 years since it was released in Japan. And it, of course, it was not the fastest selling, I don't think, but it was absolutely the #1 selling Final Fantasy game within the franchise of all time. But the gaming landscape has changed so much. You know, this game took 10 years to make, and we heard about it, and we heard about it, and we heard about it, and we heard about it. So that left us all going, well, I want to see what it's like when it comes out. You know, I wanted to, too. I got it first day. I spent 110 hours in it trying to analyze whether or not this is actually a good Final Fantasy game, because we all wanted to know. We all wanted to know what was the end result of this really kind of horrifying development hell that 15 went through. Furthermore, pre-order culture is just so different than it was 20 years ago. Pre-orders happened, but it wasn't like this. It wasn't like you get a special pre-order bonus if you pre-order from this store and a different one if you go to this store. So the only reason why I ended up pre-ordering from GameStop, begrudgingly, because I really did not want to shop at GameStop.
I remember.
Yeah, was because it came bundled with another game that you can't buy any other way. It came with A King's Tale Final Fantasy 15. That was my one driving reason. And so that's just the nature of pre-order culture within the gaming industry, for better or for worse, because you're putting down money for a game that you really don't know whether or not you're going to enjoy at the end of the day. That's just some commentary for right now on Final Fantasy 15. So I want to talk briefly too, as I mentioned before, about how we're coming up right now on Final Fantasy VII's 20th anniversary. I know 7 is one of the few games in the Final Fantasy franchise that you actually also played and maybe completed, right?
Right. 7, because admittedly I'm not the biggest gamer, but I've at least gotten through 7, 10, and like half of, not even half, like maybe a third of the way through 10 too, and then I gave up.
I understand the story was not good, but that job system and the battle system was the only redeeming factor. Otherwise, it was pretty intolerable.
Plus, at the time, there was the social stigma of you're a dude playing a game with 3 chicks, and it's not DOA beach volleyball.
So yeah, what's really fascinating, this is specifically out of Polygon, where I'm referencing some of these articles. Polygon did this absolutely amazing bunch of cover articles and videos with just documenting all the ways that Final Fantasy VII had to develop from it. Starting as early as like 1994, the ideas of developing Final Fantasy VII. They've got these fantastic, there's some Skype notifications happening, so apologies. It's just amazing videos. Josh disappeared for a second. I'm trying to make stuff mute. I apologize.
Okay.
So these videos, they've got interviews from Nobuo Uematsu and like how he composed One Winged Angel, for example, which is really fascinating to listen to if you love Nobuo Uematsu's music. They got the guy who did the Final Fantasy VI demo, the 3D demo, where they were talking about moving Final Fantasy onto the N64 before they decided, nah, we don't have a good relationship with Nintendo, we need to jump over to PlayStation. And just all of this stuff, amazing, huge, in-depth interviews, and some of my favorite quotes for some of these interviews are coming out about specifically Tetsuya Nomura.
Now, this is stuff, not to get too far ahead, but this is stuff that shows why he was taken off 15, basically.
Essentially, yes. And so I'm looking specifically at this one quote that Tetsuya Nomura himself states. He says, "I'm a little bit fickle, so I'm not the type of person to work on one thing and focus simply on that. say if I'm drawing, I wouldn't work on a single piece at a time. I would be more like 4 or 5. It would be more like 4 or 5, and I'd rotate between them. Or if I'm working on a design document for a game, and I feel a need to change, I feel I need a change of pace, I'll start drawing something instead. Basically, he's not doing his job. He has to go do something else.
Well,
Yeah.
now I will say this much: a lot of that can be indicative of a very creative person. It sounds something akin to what you would consider something like, say, ADHD. If you can channel that correctly, you can be very prolific. But if left unchecked, then you're just all over the place.
Well, yeah, he goes on to say, or if I need to draw, I might work on different projects to change my mood and get that sort of refresh. So that's how I prioritize those kinds of things. But if there's a deadline, of course I'll prioritize that first. So what were you doing during Final Fantasy 15? You know, it's great that Final Fantasy 15 is now the fastest selling Final Fantasy game, but I don't know if that's because of you, man, because you were just sitting there like, rather than developing the game, you're like, no, I need to draw more pictures.
Yeah.
For 6 years, and then you had to be replaced, and they had to tell you, okay, go work on Kingdom Hearts 3, and he's still not done with Kingdom Hearts 3, then they also made him the director for Final Fantasy VII Remake, and now, almost 2 years has passed since that was officially announced, and now they've got a second director on it, and so now this also brings me to another news article that has come up, in which Tetsuya Nomura says, basically, don't expect either Kingdom Hearts 3 or Final Fantasy VII Remake anytime soon.
Why would you say that?
The wait will be a bit longer for Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy VII Remake. He then went on to assure fans that he will make a game that will meet your expectations. He did not say exceed your expectations.
He said meet.
He said they will meet your expectations. He says that there are parts of development of Kingdom Hearts 3, there are worlds that are just untouched. They haven't even gotten to... I have to assume that we're either going to get Star Wars or Marvel stuff, and they just haven't even...
They haven't
remotely
even
started working on them yet. So, people then wonder, why are you gonna complain? Let them take as long as they need to so that a good game comes out. I mean, why? Because you need to build trust with your audience.
Well, because the thing about it is, and you've said this before about 15, replacing him with Tabata, granted Tabata didn't know very much, but at least Tabata did the base amount of work to get a game out, and he must have done something right because it's still selling.
It's still selling. I do not think that it is the best Final Fantasy. I think it has very competent gameplay, but I absolutely do not think that that is the best story that Final Fantasy has ever produced. Now, thank you for Tabata trying to also get free DLC coming to fix that story, but still, it's been so long, that story should have been there to begin with.
So all things considered, if you had to give it a grade, it's basically a C minus. Like, he barely passed. So, but at least he turned in his homework.
Yes, exactly. He turned in his homework.
Now, that's Tabata over here. You look at Nomura. Nomura hasn't even started. Or if he started, he walked away from it and then started doing homework for a different class.
Yeah.
And then he didn't finish that one, and then he started working over here. So eventually, what's he going to end up with? Like 5 different unfinished projects. How long is it going to be before he gets replaced for everything?
Yeah,
That's
I'm
the
really
question
wondering. I'm in a strange way, I'm really worried about the man. I'm like legitimately.
I get that.
I'm concerned about his well-being. I don't think if you were to look at Tetsuya Nomura photos from say thereabouts around 2001, he looks like a dang J-rocker. Okay?
Yeah.
He's real thin, he's wearing makeup and earrings, and he's bleached his hair blonde, and he's got it all spiky, and that's why he draws characters like that, because he, like, lived that lifestyle, and he
Right.
loved that look, but now,
Right.
you remember he released that video from, it was either Christmas or New Year's, he's wishing people, like, Happy New Year's and stuff, and he just looks so, like, why am I alive? And he's like,
Like,
well,
he just woke up.
yeah, it's like he was sleeping at the office, And they're like, come on, man, I know you're not actually working, or if you are working, you're working on the wrong thing, but, like, we gotta at least get you to thank your fans for being as freaking patient with you as possible. It's so funny. I go back, to these interviews that, are coming out in regards to Final Fantasy VII. The word crazy comes up. Yeah, so I'm looking at Motonori Sakakibara. He was the movie director on Final Fantasy VII, so I guess he did like the full motion videos, the cutscenes. And he's specifically talking about Tetsuya Nomura, and he says, Nomura-san is crazy. Ha ha ha. His standards are extremely high. He was always concerned about the character's eyes, for example. The shapes and sizes of the eyes, the thickness of the eyelids. He'd spend a ton of time just on a little curve of an eye. I don't think he ever gave me a simple approval. So, he is so concerned about aesthetic that he doesn't build the rest of the game, and he's not telling people how to make the rest of the game.
That seems to be what happened.
Yeah, that happened in 7, but thank God he wasn't the director back then. But then they made him the director of Advent Children. It's like it was all down in the hill from there. Yay, good job, Square Enix. I don't know where they're gonna Office Space him one day, you know?
Probably, just fire him without telling him, and then hope he gets the hint.
He won't get the hint, though, because all he wants to do is sleep in the office and draw pictures. That's all he wants to do anymore.
So as long as he gets free coffee and donuts, he'll keep doing it.
Exactly.
Regardless... like coffee and onigiri, I guess.
They like donuts, too. We walked into a donut shop, remember? It tasted
Admittedly,
exactly
those donuts
like...
were all...
They tasted exactly
right.
like Dunkin' Donuts, Josh. It was just like Dunkin' Donuts.
Pretty close, admittedly.
It was pretty close. Regardless, there's probably going to be tons of new cool content coming out in regards to Final Fantasy VII. What would have been amazing would be if they'd actually released one part of Final Fantasy VII Remake in time for the 20th anniversary, but, that didn't happen. But
well, it hasn't happened yet.
No, well, it's not going to happen for 2 weeks. They're not going to get the game out in 2 weeks, Josh.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. Shut up. But,
all right.
I'm sure there's going to be tons of more really cool interviews and stuff coming out in regards to Final Fantasy VII. If you haven't already, I highly recommend you read this article from Polygon. It's at polygon.com/a/final-fantasy-7. And it's just pages and pages and pages of really amazing interviews. I find it absolutely fascinating. I think you guys would too.
Yes, but with the time we have left, we got to get to our final story.
Yes.
About this man who has been fined for doing his job out of his home.
Yeah, so we are looking specifically at Justin Chandler. I suppose his YouTube handle is KOSDFF.
DFF.
He's got a Call of Duty team. He vlogs and he plays games and stuff. I'm not too familiar with him or what his success rate is, but he's operating a business out of his home, and for that reason, because he lives in a homeowners association, that's what's getting him in trouble. Now, Josh, maybe you can explain to some people what a homeowners association is, because I've learned, actually, while I've been out here, there are not a lot of people who know or understand what a homeowners association is.
Okay, so for some of you who know what a homeowners association is, I apologize. For those of you who don't know, so what a homeowners association is basically a group of people in a subdivision who basically draft up some documents to say, hey, we're going to work together and hold to these documents to keep our neighborhood to a certain level of...
Standard, right?
Standards, yes. Whether that be aesthetics having to do with grass, keeping up fences, things like that, or other things like obnoxious behavior in the area, and that could be anything from leaving trash out, not fixing a broken window, or in certain cases, nuisance complaints from your neighbors. Mm-hmm. So the way that breaks down with this specifically is that this guy, Justin, was working on videos out of his home, just doing that, but because of a homeowners association complaint, it wasn't even really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, but because a neighbor was able to enforce part of the governing documents that they have there for the homeowners association, they were able to not only get this guy in trouble, but also basically threaten his livelihood. So the way that breaks down is very interesting to see because if you know anything about an HOA, a lot of the people who live there very much believe that they want to have a pristine neighborhood that they're proud to live in, and if people live in that neighborhood,
they like that their grass is exactly 1.5 inches high, and that the paint job is
yes,
perfect and matches the gutters, and
yes, exactly.
you know.
But if somebody moves in there that does not fit that aesthetic, you better believe they will hound that person to no end, to very asinine lengths.
Well,
And this is what happened.
yeah, a lot of homeowners associations are built very sadly on a lot of prejudices. It'll be either racial prejudices or prejudices against homosexuality and same-sex couples like living together, or it'll be sometimes just college students that they don't like living there. So they also try not to have people of not one same nuclear family living under one roof. That is often part of a homeowners association's bylaws, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's even the case here with this individual. You know, the bylaws change from homeowners association to homeowners association, but
In most cases, not really. In a lot of cases, the governing documents for a homeowners association are very copy paste from the next association over. And when certain wording is very nebulous, then that leaves it open for jerks to say, well, it doesn't specifically say he's doing this, but I'm saying he's doing this, enforce it. And basically, yeah, that's how you can get into these what start as really simple enough arguments like, hey, you know, why'd you park on my property? Can you not do that? And you escalate from that to having this guy fined. How much did they say he was fined for this?
Let me double check this. It was $138. What was it? A day?
A day.
They $136 per day. Or if they did not comply, he's gonna get evicted. So this has not yet been settled, and he lives not only by himself, but with a couple of other YouTube producers as well. And so technically he is breaking this other agreement of the homeowners association because it's multiple family persons under one roof that are not all one same nuclear family. Really, it might be best if they all got married to each other. Then, you know, that would be
I don't think that would solve it, because even then what this brings the bigger picture up of is that they're citing that he's running a business out of his own home and citing his camera, his